Okay, we're ready then. So, and everybody has this to follow along the order service on one side, and we're into the obituary scripture, but the obituary to follow along is right here with a picture of David and his sisters and his wife Gloria, and that was taken at the wedding. And you see somebody say, there's the date. So you say, what year was that? David was born on December 5, 1957, Little Falls, New York, to Richard Gauthier and Kanja Harry, who lived up the road from Little Falls, and Bethel Gauthier, Nee Harris, Bethel Harris of Ithaca, New York, and that's a little bit going towards Buffalo, the other direction. But both on that stretch of interstate. We've been up to both families. And we took a stop with David one time just to peek at Little Falls, New York. He was just a baby and he wouldn't remember the hospital. We got a picture of the hospital where he was at. David was born into an Air Force family, career Air Force, so they moved around a lot. But as a young man, he went and he joined the Merchant Marines. For several years, he lived out west. Then he did a private nursing duty job in Florida before finally returning east and laboring in a variety of occupations in both Michigan and New York. David is survived by his former wife of 20 years, Gloria, his elder sister, Linda, married to myself, to Robert of Westland here in Michigan, his younger sister, Carol, married to Bill, as I was saying, of Niles, Michigan, and his niece, sitting in the back there, Carol, of Westland as well. And this last part I put in the obituary because we've spoken to many people who've known David over the years, and it fits. His neighbors, his friends, his co-workers, just on and on. Not recently, I mean over the years. Oh, you know, you're David's sister, David's a brother, and so on. He was a caring Christian man, gone too soon, and he'll be greatly missed by all who he came in contact with. And if you'll see on there, there's a scripture reading. I'm going to render my favorite one I like to do at funerals. I share it with people. I write it in their cards so they go, I truly believe it. And, you know, I decided to put this in here at this particular time, too. Oh, so somebody shipped it on me, so give me a moment. Yeah, that was removed and moved. I shall find it. You want to follow along with Bibles there underneath your seat. Every seat has one. We'll go here.
What verse is it?
Going to the 2 Thessalonians. Oh, it's stuck together. This is large print. This is good for me. You know, I don't really need the Bible. So I got this off. My wife did. There it is. See, so I should remember page 2. It's taken from 1 Thessalonians. Sorry, 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 and verses 16 to 18. For the Lord himself shall descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trumpet of God. And the dead in Christ shall rise first. Then we which are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. And so shall we ever be with the Lord. Wherefore, comfort one another with these words. It's one of my favorite passages from Scripture, especially in funeral time or memorial, as it were. And the reason it's so is because for those who know their Bible, Old and New Testament, those who believe in the Lord, believe in the Bible, that's true, know that, you know, we will see David again. And the way the world's going right now, I don't think it's going to be very long. Whether it's from plagues or nuclear war or, you know, just very much unrest. Just go through Daniel or other to see all the foretellings of how the conditions will be at the very end when Christ decides enough. He puts an end to all this nonsense going on. And that's when we believe we'll see our loved ones once again in the part, especially those who went to sleep believing in Jesus. That's very much David, as we do. Before Gloria speaks, I just like to add to, like I said, I put this last sentence into the obituary, but yeah, I got to know David. I married his sister 38 years ago in August, and David wasn't around, meaning he was somewhere out west. He traveled a lot. He was in his merchant and he was working different places. So it's not like he had a fixed address. You pick up the phone and get him. So he was not at our wedding. Her sister Carol was his youngest sister, but David wasn't available. It was a couple years later we actually were able to contact David, and I got to meet him. So not 30 years, but maybe 35-ish. And then he was still there, but he was traveling. As he moved further east, he got south into Florida. Then we went down to stay. We got to actually meet him, in the Tampa Bay area. This is before he was married to Gloria, so we saw him the first time. He's a skinny lad, you could see him tall and straight. That's how she met him. That's how he looked when she met him. But then after they'd been married, Carol and Carol was like a baby, so friends went down to the wedding. I wasn't at the wedding. They went down to the country church there in Florida. And then after they were married and they lived there a while, we did go down again to Florida to see them. So we stayed in their spare room, all three of us crammed in there. And we had a good time, like for a long weekend. Then we came back up because we drove. It's a lot of miles driving. And eventually they moved into Michigan. They came out to stay with us for a while, and they got their own apartment and so on. And so that's how he kind of came back in our lives, but back in with a bang. He was a really neat guy, as I say, everybody that came into him. He's the guy that you hear about that give the shirt off his back to somebody. If he knew they were in need, don't even have to ask twice. He was always there for people. But one thing that disturbed him was the opposite kind of person that would walk around someone. That's like the story of the Good Samaritan in the Bible. People would step over or walk around someone in need and pretend they weren't in there, didn't see it. Get out of my way, I'm not going to help you. Those are the people who bother David. David wasn't like that. He'd stop and spend time with David to talk to anybody. When he was here in Ann Arbor working at the dry cleaners, he'd be talking to people. He had his regular customers. They became his friends right away. How's your family? He'd know their names, everything about them. And be like, wow, this is a popular guy. He runs all these things, he knows all these people. But mainly because he was a friendly guy. He was a caring guy. Like I say, he'd give whatever you needed, and he'd keep in touch with you. Very loyal person, and that's the way I remember David. And like I said, I wish I'd met him even a little sooner, but it wasn't too many years, Linda was telling me a story about when he was in the merchant marine. She used to love when he'd come home, just show up. Maybe they knew, maybe they didn't, but she was a kid, so he'd have something in his bag for his sisters. And for the family, it's always like, hey, look what I got, It's like, you're the neighbors, so where have you traveling? All over the world, right? And you've got something for me. Ooh, what's in the bag, That's the way she remembered him, because he was gone as she was growing. He was older, a few years, not that many, but a couple years older. So yeah, he started out life working at a very young age. So that was, you've seen some slides of him in elementary school, up in the high school years, and traveling, and then as a young man, and so on. So by the time he came back into our lives, he was full grown by then, and then later then married, and so on. But yeah, when his niece was born, he had to get up here and see her. We were in Canada then at the time, and he had to come up and spend some time with his niece. And she remembers it was always being fun, We got pictures of him like dressing up like he played dolls or tea party with somebody. There's David playing with Carolyn, dressed up in the whole long gloves and 9 yards. So hi there. It was hilarious, but she loved it, and that's what counted. He really loved his niece. So all right to then, he'd always, how's she doing? We keep him informed, along with his sisters. And so, that's the part, like I say, it's just gone too soon and going to be greatly missed. So now, as I said, we promised Miss Gloria, because I can be long-winded, we promised Miss Gloria to go first, and then we'll have Mr. Bill play the special music, and the pastor come up with his closing prayer. But when closing prayer is done, and take your time, you have some thoughts. If you didn't know them, I'm sure you're going to get to know them by listening. But when closing prayer is done, don't just jump out of your seat, because we've actually got him on screen singing one of his probably second or third favorite songs. So that was special that he was able to do that. That surprised me. And I said, where did you get that? And so we have that available for you. Now, like I said, you can stand and speak, you can sit and speak loud, or you can come over here, because this works fine. And That's how the program will go on the back there. And afterwards, don't run off, like you can use the rest of our facilities spaced out. There's plenty of stuff there, but make sure you take some of the refreshments with you or just socialize, get to know each other. It's small group here. Some of them watching on the live stream, that's great. So appreciate your all's time coming out to remember David on this hot, sunny afternoon. Miss Gloria, here first. You come up front, be careful, any cords or anything. I know I'm short-sighted when I want you to. First of all, I'm short.
I'd like to thank you for coming today. David and I met July of '93 in Plant City, Florida. He came in ordered a large chocolate cone. I guess you can say there's more than ice cream. Our first date, we went to see Dennis the Menace. I enjoyed his laughter. He held my hand that night. We saw a lot of one another, and 2 weeks later, he proposed marriage. I said yes, but let's wait until December to get married. Needless to say, we married December 18th of 1993. We moved from Florida to Michigan so he could be closer to his sisters. One evening, he met Lori Schmidt. He said I had to meet her. That struck up one of the best friendships anyone could ask for. So her husband, Steve, Lori, Dave, and I would go out to dinner and have quite a few laughs. Mainly Lori and David would be the cut-ups. One time, Dave went to the restroom. Steve sat in David's chair and shook hot sauce on his green beans. Dave came back and started eating. Suddenly, the green beans entered his mouth. Dave blamed me. It took quite a while for him to accept that Steve was the one that did it. Dave just loved to have fun, but he had a nice side to him. He made my coffee every morning. He got me up when I didn't.
Just take it off.
He also opened my doors for me all the time. We had a love that was strong. He was the love of my life, and I'm going to miss him so much. Thank you.
I'm David's younger sister. He was 6 years older. And I've always called David a wandering soul. Because, and he would always play these pranks on me being the youngest sister. And we grew up in the Seventh-day Adventist Church. So I decided to pull a prank on him when I was about 5. And all we ever heard about in church was Jesus was coming back in the cloud. So when I was 5, I went outside and I said, he's there on the cloud. And David came running out and my mother laughed. And then I waited a couple weeks and I did it again, and my mother laughed. And then the third time, ivory soap does not taste good in the mouth because my mother had it. But, yeah, that, because at 5, that's all I knew was maybe he'll go out there and he'll go, where to go? And I'm like, I don't know where he went, and he'll come back. Like, you know, and that's just a Christian funny thing to do as a child. And, you know, I didn't get to know David a lot because he was 6 years older until I was older. And we were doing our own things, you know, and then we got close again, and then he called me and he said he was gonna marry this girl. I thought, you know, and I was in college, but I was in my 30s. I thought, well, I'm gonna hightail it down to Florida and see who he's settling down with. And I went with my really good friend at the time, Elsa, and we went down there and we met Gloria, and being the really girl that I am, I was measuring the church and doing all the things. And then 2 weeks later, it was during, we were studying for finals, and Gloria was getting married. So my girlfriend and I were taking a class together. So whoever was driving, we were making decorations in the car, driving all the way down all these pom-poms. I remember that. Remember that, Gloria? All these pom-poms that you peel apart. And we must have had hundreds of them because we were going to spell out the name. And whoever was driving was in charge of the pom-poms or the note cards to study so we could get this wedding done. And I was showing Gloria a picture of a hat, and I said, you have to have a hat. She didn't have a veil, and I made her wear a hat for her wedding. I'd never seen David so happy that he finally found somebody that just totally accepted him for him. And I still tell Gloria that Gloria will always be my sister-in-law, no matter what. You know, we kind of grew apart after David. It doesn't matter, but Gloria will always be my sister-in-law. And I was lucky to see David 2 years ago when we went up to New York for something. And, you know, and I just told him I loved him, and, you know, and he's gone too soon. But David finally found himself. He, you know, it was a weird childhood, but I'm not going to go into that. But he finally found himself, and he finally found a woman that just totally accepted for him. And you can't get that in a lot of marriages. And, you know, Gloria, you did something for David that David needed and that you needed. And I'm so happy that you were able to give him those 20 years plus. That is something that makes me happy. And next time I see David, maybe he'll be on that cloud with Jesus. David will be swinging his legs, going, I'm, you know, coming in the cloud, Jesus, hanging his legs over everyone. Hey, I'm finally here, you know. That's how I want to remember him. And he'll always still be my wandering soul. And Linda was nice enough that she got us his little trinkets, Tree of Life. With his ashes, and I always wear a Tree of Life, but it's really strange. I don't want to go on, but Bill will tell you we've been moving around a lot, and my Tree of Life actually broke, the one that I had, like 2 weeks ago, right, Bill? So now I have a new Tree of Life, and I always wear that Tree of Life, and it's got his, so I can take him, and where I'm going on my travels, you know, I'm going to put that on a nice necklace. So yeah, that's really weird because I love the Tree of Life, and he's gonna be really missed. I'm gonna miss his pranks, and I'm gonna miss him just being the most gentle soul. He was just a true gentle soul, and I'm lucky that he got to meet my husband. So, so I'm just gonna wait for that cloud, you know, and yeah. That's all I'm saying.
I'm Linda, I'm the middle sister, so I was always the peacemaker in the family. Yeah, when David told us that he was getting married, we couldn't believe that he finally was gonna settle down with someone, you know? And there's a picture that I chose for the back of the program. It was one of David's happiest days of his life. He had Gloria, which was the love of his life, and he had his two sisters. Dave was a very loyal person, but the one thing that I respected about David and loved about David was he learned the true art of forgiveness. And it's something that we all can learn. If we can learn how to do what he did, our world would be a much gentler place. He had a challenged childhood, and growing up, they don't always go your way. But David learned how to forgive, not just, oh, I forgive you. He learned Jesus' forgiveness. He let it go. He didn't bring it up again. He didn't talk about it. It was just gone. And I don't know how he did that. I don't understand that kind of a heart. But I strive to be, we strive to be like Jesus, but I strive to be like my brother. He, everywhere he went, and Rob attributed this, everywhere he went, he tried to do something nice for someone else. And it's true. He had money and you needed money and he give it away. Or it was always like, Dave, where's that money I gave you? Oh, I met somebody on the street and they need some money. Well, that was our grocery money. Well, that's okay, we can make more. It was a frustrating time for Gloria. She's like, we're not rich. No, it'll be okay. And they always made it through, And yeah. But when David got sick and he went to Florida, he went to New York. And it was at that time, it was one of our low points in our lives, in all of our lives, because we didn't know who Dave was. And when Dave got better and he started healing and he started getting better, he came back to the Dave we all knew and loved, but he became a better version of David, And when you say that Dave came into himself, yeah, his last few years, he was just totally accepting of everybody. When we went up there to clean out his apartment, I can't tell you how many people stopped by. I don't even know who they were, And they're like, "Oh, you're Dave's sister." Oh, it was all these things about Dave. Had nothing to connect with Carol. Had nothing to connect with me. It was Dave on his own. So I always said, that who the true character of a person is when you come to a church or the congregation that knows you and they have all these glowing things to say. You go to your workplace and they have all these glowing things to say. You go to a different state, somewhere totally different, and they have all these glowing things to say. And that speaks volumes of what David was like, And Gloria was the love of his life, There was these pictures of Gloria here, pictures of Gloria there, and then I would ask him, "So who you talk to lately?" I talked to Gloria. I said, "Oh, anything new with her?" I said, "Well, what do you guys talk about?" "Oh, everything, just whatever, it's just," I was like, "Oh, okay." So, but yeah, we're gonna miss him. But I think that the legacy that he left behind, we won't know until we get to heaven how many people he has touched and how many people he brought to Jesus just by who he was, because Jesus was his first love, and he told Gloria, Jesus was his first love, Gloria was his second love, and it's always, that's the way it should be in life, and if you can learn to accept that, then whoever you guys are married will Jesus should always be the first love in somebody's life, so that's all.
Anybody else is feel free to stand. There's been God in this congregation for 2 years. Some of you don't know God.
I didn't know David very much, like his likes and dislikes, but I could definitely tell he was a gentle soul, had a gentle soul. And I remember one time he bought and brought this really hot sauce. And it was going, yeah, try it, check it out. So I didn't know you were supposed to take a toothpick and dip it into it and then eat it. I took a tater tot and like that. Oh, I was mad at him too, because he didn't tell me that. So funny to talk about the hot sauce and the green beans, you know? That was pretty funny. So that you can't get mad at a guy like that. No. You know, it's just it's just fun and games. But yeah, he was quite a good guy. He was like riding a scooter at the time, I think it was. Yeah, that was pretty cool. I never seen it. I don't know anybody that had scooter, so when they had to go outside and check it out and everything like that. But he kind of between crazy and brave at the same time, riding on that around here. So he's he had that going for him too. So I want to definitely miss him, but not as much as everybody else. But still, I really enjoyed my time when he was up here and we were joining our fellowshipping in church here. So yeah, it was a cool day.
Crying already. He was a great guy. I remember the first time I met him, we were forming Canton Company. And I said, "Where's your wife?" And he goes, "Oh, she don't come to church." I said, "Well, we're going to pray for her. We're going to get her in there." And then from Canton Company, we moved over and joined with Belleville. And I gave him my phone number. I don't know why. But he was just that kind of guy. You could give him your phone number and feel safe. He'd call me 9 o'clock at night. "Do you have a minute?" I'm like, "Yeah, what's up?" He goes, "Well, I want to talk to you about this thing that I just studied in the Bible." He goes, "I know what I believed before." He says, "and I know what it's saying, but I just want to talk a little bit more about it." I'm like, "Okay, that's fine." I'm like, "What's your wife doing?" "Well, she's sleeping." It's 11 o'clock at night now. We've been on the phone for 2 hours. I'm like, "David, I've got to get up in the morning and go to work." He's like, "Well, can we talk again tomorrow?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, sure. Call me after dinner." He says, "Okay, I'll call you after dinner." But I always remember him when we were at Belleville and at Canton. He would get up with his harmonica, and so we'd start the service off with him playing his harmonica. And there's times he'd walk down the hallway playing his harmonica. He was such a gifted man. He knew how to play that harmonica. He knew how to talk about Jesus, and he knew how to share Jesus with other people. I will always remember that. I also remember the dinners that we went to with Gloria. I never saw him eating so much in my life. We'd all order a dinner, and he'd get 2, and I'm like, "Where are you gonna put it?" Exactly, right there. So one time, him and Gloria would treat, the next time my late husband and I would treat, and that was always a lot of fun. And Gloria always said, "You're never gonna get me in church." Well, she came for my husband's baptism.
Amen.
And she came for his funeral. And she came when I got remarried. So David and I were able to get her there 3 times. Praise the Lord. So they became like brother and sister to me. I still feel like they're brother and sister. And I can't wait till one day when Christ comes back, we all get to meet the Lord in the air. What were you doing, Gloria? 4 times. Praise the Lord, she's in church 4 times. So that's all, I just had to share a few of those things. Oh, let me back up a little bit here. When my first husband passed away and Dave and Gloria were getting ready to move to, was it Illinois, was it?
Yeah.
When he brought over that huge snow blower and I didn't know how I was gonna move it or operate it, and he showed me how. Yeah, he's like, you're gonna need one of these. He goes, you're getting a little old to do it with the shovel.
Bravo.
So, but I'm gonna miss David. And Gloria, remember to call me. I love you.
Just like to say, I didn't know David very long either, but he was the kindest, gentlest, soft-spoken person I think that I've known. And I enjoyed his love of music. I played the piano here at church, and so we talk about music a lot. And sometimes he'd call me in the afternoons and he'd have a song. He said, I have the words of this song, I have a new song. If you have time to listen to it, I said, sure. And he'd play just beautiful music. I don't know if he wrote some of these things himself. He did. I thought that he probably did. And he would play music and I would just listen to it. I got to talk to him a couple of times after he moved away to New York. And I really missed him. And so I'm looking forward to one day when Jesus comes, when we're not dead and dying anymore, and we'll be able to see him in heaven.
Amen.
I'm Gloria's cousin, her mother, my mother, were sisters. And my husband and I didn't get to know David real well. He came down to our house 3 or 4 times. And they were supposed to be coming to visit, so Gloria and I could visit. Except he kept running her down to Columbus, running her here, running her there. We didn't get to spend much time with them. But the one thing that I can recall right off the top of my head is my cousin, our cousin from Indiana came down to my house. So I called Gloria, bring Charlotte up to see you, yeah. And Dave was very gracious to us. Well, Charlotte and Gloria and I had our picture taken, 3 cousins. And the next time Gloria brought him down to our house, I showed him the picture. He said, y'all look like you were drunk, and we hadn't had anything.
I'm Bill. I got to meet David, who will do fundraise in New York. And I'm going to play the Lighthouse, which was his favorite tune. Here, give me a chance.
Well, from what I've heard, I wish I would have had the chance to meet David personally. It sounds like he was a really neat guy. And looking forward to meeting him hopefully one day soon. If you would, please bow your heads with me for a word of closing prayer. Father in heaven, I'd like to pause and thank you for the life that David lived and for the influence that he had on the people around him. Lord, even though I didn't know him personally, it seems that there were many people that were positively affected by his life and by the influence that he had in this world. We'd like to thank you for that. Lord, we thank you for the opportunity right now to be able to take time to remember. And Father, I want to uplift this family right here that are continuing on. I pray that you would please provide comfort for them, provide the healing that only you can bring. And Lord, I pray that you would please give them wisdom to know how to move forward. We thank you, Father. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I'd like to invite you to remain seated as we finish the program. There is a closing song that is actually a recording of something that David himself did. And then following that, I would invite you to join the family for some refreshments in the lobby. Thank you.
In the morning, when I rise, give me Jesus. In the morning, when I rise, give me Jesus. Give me Jesus. Give me Jesus. You can have all of this world, but give me Jesus. And when I die, and I am old, oh, and when I am alone, when I am alone, give me Jesus. Give me Jesus. Give me Jesus. You can have all of this world, but give me Jesus. In the morning, when I rise, give me Jesus. Oh yes, in the morning, when I rise, give me Jesus. Give
You can have all of this world. Give me Jesus.
And, that to the foyer, it's gonna be a little bit different, than our normal traditional refreshments. We have to keep everything sealed, so it's gonna be a little bit unhealthy if we would. We've got some chips in there, some snacks in there, some bottled water, caffeinated drinks there, so go ahead and help yourself.
Please remember to sign at the American's book at by the hello and the entrance if you haven't done so. And if you need extra copies.
Thank you everyone for coming. We have been really appreciate it.